Hey guys, this is HDGW2, my name's Rapsec.
And my name is Oriel.
And today we've got something a little bit different for you guys. We've got a special guest on the show. Today we're doing a little bit of a game analysis of a game with Team Synergy. This time we've got LiNK from Team Synergy, he'll be joining us.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Alright, so we just wanted to ask you a couple of questions and we'll sort of get you to explain a couple of things about how this game plays out.
Alright, LiNK, so what kind of breakdown do we see on your team? What kind of professions are you using, that sort of thing in this particular match?
Alright, in this particular match we've decided to go with a very passive playstyle instead of being aggressive. We've got the 2-point defenders in the form of Hokadian, who plays a first base defender, and then the actual POV Hecate, who pushes for keep as a 2nd-point defender. We've got a warrior, Mesmer, and Thief to the 3-man rotating team. So as a warrior, my main role is DPS. The Mesmer is survivability and DPS, and a little bit of CC on the side. And then the Thief plays a unique role of pushing for the far points in this game.
Right, so the Thief role is quite key there if it's going to be pushing for the far points. He's got to be sort of spec'd for, I guess, 1v1, is that right?
Yeah, that is correct. His role is basically going to be to try keep harassing, I think is a better word, that henge point. Alright,
so we should be seeing a lot of that in this game. So just so we can get a bit of a general overview of your strategy, what's sort of your mindset going into this game at the moment?
Alright, so in previous games we played before this one, we'd had quite a few steals on us, and we had unsuccessful steals because we hadn't spec correctly. So we decided just prior to this game that we would instead take a defensive role. So we take 2 players this time and take sPvP, while leaving 2 players in the middle to intercept any steal, which actually works out really nice for us, and we're able to make a strong adaptation. So generally a very passive opening strategy.
Alright, so I guess it's a bit of a switch up from what you're used to, so sounds pretty interesting. Let's get into this. Alright, so we got the perspective of Hecate, is that right? He's going to be our guardian?
Yeah, Hecate is the 2nd-point defender on keep.
Alright, so I guess you mentioned with the split before, you've got one going on the mine, that's the other guardian. Oh, there's a bit of an intercept here. What's happening right now?
Alright, so I said before the steal was a definite possibility, and they decide to go for one, and our 2-man team intercepts them en route to the steal. And we notice this and adapt onto it by mowing one and then obviously getting the kill.
Right, I see. Okay, so it just looks like you came back there. So you were intended to head to Svanir, I imagine, but you just came in there with the Pulse Charge and 100 Blaze to knock out one of their players, which seemed to work out pretty well for you there. Is that something you had to make on the fly?
We actually call it a Moa Spike on TeamSpeak. We'll generally count it down 3, 2, 1 Moa Spike. And it's actually really strong. It's like a guaranteed kill. So yeah, I was going to go for Svanir there, but we managed to intercept a 2-man steal, and therefore it was like an easy 3v2 for us.
Alright, so we've got a bit of a combat going on here. And so you said you've sent up the Mesmer and the Guardian here onto this point. Why would you send a Mesmer up? I hear they're a bit squishy.
If you spec for survivability, they're really hard to kill while packing a lot of DPS. So they're really great for team fights. But in our new composition that we'll have on release, we have actually removed the Mesmer after the recent nerfs to them.
Right, I see.
So we can see on the map that it looks like the Thief is heading to the henge. Is that right?
Yeah, as I said before, the far points roll. We notice here that it's a very mathematical game that they push way too many to keep. So we know that they should be missing one down at the henge there. So we send our far point fetcher all the way to henge.
Right, I see. So we've got a bit of an engagement on here, and you seem to be lasting pretty well. I guess that Mesmer is quite survivable, especially in the heat of battle. There's a lot of illusions and things like that, and of course this Guardian is doing a great job here. So I guess you were outnumbered for a little bit there until you sort of jumped in the fight, you yourself being the warrior. Is that right?
Yeah, we always knew that we were going to die here simply because they had more than us, and they had a more Zergy team fight build. So it was mainly just about how long we could survive for and stop them from pushing onto other points.
Right, so you're doing a really good job here. So it looks like you've just gotten the triple cap. Yeah, so I see that 3 cap has done a good job. So that how you've kept that point held for so long, even though you're a bit outnumbered there. I guess we see a lot of kills coming down on the side there. That was a pretty good job. So I guess holding that henge over there, it's pretty uncontested at the moment. Is that right? Yeah,
well, Cam is spec'd 1v1 as a Thief, so it's generally really easy for him rather to win them 1v1s. So he's done a really great job in keeping henge, and in turn it actually wins us the game. Right,
and we can also actually see right now he's not actually in combat up on the party menu there. So we've got a bit of an engagement coming over here. Looks like they've moved down to the mine. And we see a little Yeah, go on.
Yeah, sorry, this is really important here. The next adaptation we make could be game-changing. We've obviously managed to get that 3 cap, but they decide to head down to mine, and you'll notice here that they actually 2-point cap us for a while. So our next adaptation is really key.
Right, I see. And you're saying you're playing that passive style before, so is it, in terms of a passive style, I guess that's more of a reactive style, that's more of a, you're going to go in with no particular strategy but try and work around them. I guess that's the case, isn't it?
Yeah, well, in such an early game, I mean, it's pre-release, so having a meta is kind of hard to follow. So we've decided to play a very reactive Guild Wars 2 in which we respond to what the enemy team is doing. And as you can see there, we noticed that a lot of them moved down to mine, so in turn we took keep and held those 2 points and give them 1.
So we can see he's finding his return now as well as the chieftain. What kind of strategy will you use to get those bosses down?
Usually we have the first point defender move down and then 1 down from keep. It generally gets us a pretty quick Zerg, but they actually have mine here, so they obviously get our forest monster, so we decide just to push and get their forest monster. So kind of a trade between both teams.
I see. We can see that thief moving up from the henge to get that forest monster.
All right, and we did see the snipe there, and I guess at this point you're more after sort of trading points rather than trying to take a lead. Or I guess you are in a 2-cap situation now, so you do want to get one of those points back.
Yeah, now's a really tricky situation. You can't sit here, but there's a one-on-one Guardian fight going on at mine, and which is really important, which Quebec eventually wins, which gives us the 2 point. We're in a really tricky situation now, and if it was to go wrong here, we would probably end up losing because they have those 2 points. But we hold keep for as long as possible and end up taking mine, which in turn gives us those 2 points.
Right, yeah, that's really interesting. You're saying how there's sort of that possibility for a comeback. I mean, you always hear about sort of comebacks in games like like StarCraft or League of Legends, where they have some sort of progression where you get stronger items or you get more of an army later in the late game. I heard it was earlier on you were saying me how in this type of game you've got no sort of standard footing at any point in the time. You've always got an even playing field. It's just the points that have changed. So I guess does that leave a more chance for a comeback, do you reckon?
Yeah, of course. The games can shift either way. Like in LoL and SE2, you see game progression with different items, as you said. In this game, guys have an equal footing throughout the whole match, minus obviously the buffs from the monsters, which aren't really that important. So that's what's great about Guild Wars 2. It kind of leaves a window for teams to come back into the game at all times.
Right, yes. And so sorry just to cut some action. It looks like Gagarian down on the mine has actually won a fight there, and that's also giving you back that point. So I guess you're in a bit more of a comfortable situation now, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Cam's also won his 1v1 down at Henge there on the Necro, and that means that we've won 2 1v1s, giving us all 3 points in just a little bit.
Now, just before, when we saw you dealing with some enemies at the keep there, is the best attacking or the best vantage point to start attacking the keep from those top areas there? Because we saw a few players on there. Could you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, one of the strong strats we will be using on release that we've just looked into is actually when you take the forest monster early game and you rush up to keep, it's more important for casters and generally range characters to sit on top there. However, you can dodge a little of them, which you would have seen earlier by standing on the walls like we did. But generally, necros, for necros, it's really strong. In a Boon and Controls vid, we saw them do that. They have a necro that just sits literally up there the whole game, and AoE is the keep, which is really, really strong.
Right, yeah. So just in the kill log there, we see Kamzi down at the Henge has actually killed that Necromancer, who I guess is their first base defender a couple times there. He's just gone down now, but he's been managed to hold that Henge sort of most of the game and doing quite a good job of it.
Well, yeah, one of the most important things about sPvP and Guild Wars 2 is, in general, holding a point. And their Necros really struggle to do that all game, meaning it's been a really easy cap for us, and we've been winning so far.
Right, and I guess you're saying that the thief role is really critical. So, a thief being a good 1v1, is that ever substituted in any case? Do you always use a thief to attack that third point?
Not always. Generally, against really good teams, we keep the thief with us, and for mobile reasons, if he can adapt and change a 2-on-2 to a 3-on-2. But here his role generally is taking that far point, which he does really well, and in turn kind of wins us the game.
Now we can see both of the forest monsters back up. How much of a priority was it to take these down at the point in time?
Alright, so you need to kind of look at the point situation here. If they were to get both forest monsters, they wouldn't really catch up. So it's not really on the high list of priorities here. In a really close game, obviously you want that buff edge and you want the points. But here we notice that they haven't really pushed towards a forest monster, and it's not a really high priority now. Holding just 1 point or holding 2 points is really high up there.
Right, I see. And I guess with in terms of progression, if you're able to just hold on to 1 point, I guess there's got to be some sort of critical mass where even if they're holding 2 points, if you can just hold one with, I guess, essentially a couple of players, then you should be fine for the majority of the game and should secure the win for you. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, it's a really strong strat that I've seen a lot of teams using. As soon as you get to like the 420, 400 mark, it's usually a really strong strat just to literally 5-man ball on a point and hold that 1 point, because you know that you'll eventually win even if they have the 2 points.
Have you won a couple times doing this? It sounds like something that a lot of players would get upset about, and it's sort of it's almost like a very cheesy way to sort of secure a victory.
It is kind of cheesy and gimmicky, but I guess our build kind of balances it out. I don't know. We actually had one game where we did it, and the other team nearly caught up. It was the first time we'd ever done it, and the other team was at like 480 or something like that, and we just managed to win it.
So we're sort of in that very last phase of the game here, isn't it? So I guess, I mean, you really just want to avoid being in the situation where if you're going to hold 1 point, or your enemy's going to hold 1 point and beat you, you really don't want to be in that at all costs.
Yeah, so you can see that.
So what's happening right now?
Yeah, you can see on the minimap, we've grouped 3 around mine, basically. One's going to head up to keep because he knows that there's no one on keep, so we're going to hold mine and possibly take keep in order to finish off the game. Hecate moves towards Guardian here because the other team should have been starting Chieftain to try and possibly start a comeback, but they weren't, and he decides to start it himself, and ends up wasting the team's time, the enemy team's time on Chieftain for quite a while, allowing us to just finish off the game really strongly.
Alright, so just getting those last 2 kills at the end really just secured that for you. I think Chieftain kills someone? Yeah, kills one of the
I think
team
it does.
players.
So yeah, I guess at the end there, it wasn't really so much of a point to actually get that Chieftain kill because you would have got the win anyway. I guess it was more to sort of disrupt the enemy team, because if you look at it from their perspective, it's sort of them who's trying to come back, and the way they can come back is getting those quick monster kills. So I guess it's a good idea to try and disrupt them.
Yeah, it's also really pivotal because they have to stop us from taking Chieftain, because if we take Chieftain we win, obviously. So they had to stop us in some way, and in the end forcing them to stop us means that we can hold them off for longer and obviously cap 2 points.
Right, and so then you're sort of making them dictate the pace of the game. You're sort of putting them in the uncomfortable spot of making them take the tough choice and try and get the comeback.
Yeah, so the first time in that game we actually turned it on to them, where we controlled them rather.
Yeah, so I guess what was some of the, so we looked at some of the things that you did well. I wonder what sort of the things that the enemy team could have done to have improved their play, or to have sort of come back in any situation. What do you reckon?
Alright, obviously not being able to see their POV is a bit hard for us to make decisions like that. But if you look at it, they never held 1 point like the entire match, which was their major downfall. No matter who you're playing against, whether it can be the greats of Super Squad and Team Paradigm, if you're a really bad team, as long as you're holding 1 point, you're going to have a generally good scoreline. So one of the most important things about structured PvP in Guild Wars 2, you need to be holding 1 point at all times, and that's where the first base defender comes in. You'll notice if you rewatch that video that Cam gets, I think he solos the guy 3 or 4 times, really enabling us to take control, because they never ever have one solid point gaining them points, and that's really why we won in the end.
Right, I see. And so just with that sort of a comeback mechanic at the end, do you think there should be some way for teams to sort of come back a little bit more in the end? How they, if there's such a large point margin down, I guess there's sort of nothing they can really do. I guess this is something that players will have to work out over time. Do you reckon? I mean, in the current meta, we see a lot of balance shifts. We see some teams completely dominating other teams, while some teams doing other strategies completely dominating them. So do you think there should be something to sort of induce a comeback, something that could create more of an intense situation?
I think as time goes on, people would develop comeback strats. Like, I think if you win like a 5v5 team fight or something like that, you can base trap them for a while, meaning that you would be able to take a lot of points back from them, and that's maybe a strat that you can apply. However, it is really, really, really hard to come back from a point deficit like 450, 250. I don't really imagine it being possible. Maybe if ArenaNet was to add something like the forest buffs became stronger over time. But at that current stage, you need to develop like on-the-fly strats, like base trapping them, making sure they can't leave their spawn effectively, and then in the end just 3-capping and holding for as long as possible.
Right. And just quickly, I was just wondering, so you've got 2 guardians in the composition. Is that something which you do quite often, or is it something that you've done just in this particular match to sort of do that really passive style?
That was the first game in a while that we've actually used 2 Guardians. We usually use 1 Engineer as our first base defender, if you see our vids. The Engineer is really strong because he can win the 1-on-1s and maybe sometimes a 1-on-2, whereas the Guardian never really wins 1-on-1s, he kind of just defends for as long as possible. We usually always use 2 defensive roles that can hold a point for a while. It's really important that you do have some support in your composition. Obviously the game isn't designed around having like a heal role and stuff like that, but generally having 2 supports is really strong because it gives you that ability to hold 2 points indefinitely, which is really strong.
I see, and just another quick note on the sPvP. How do you feel about the down mechanic at the moment in the game? Do you feel like ArenaNet needs to change that at all?
If you've watched the podcast, I think you'll probably see that I'm the most avid person about getting this terrible thing removed from the game. I think it's honestly, I really don't like it. I wouldn't mind if they made the person quicker to kill. So if he was downed and you were able to just hit him in about 5 times and he would die, that wouldn't be that bad. I definitely think that they should remove CC from being in the down state. So you should just be able to auto attack and heal yourself and revive yourself. You shouldn't be able to CC and do other spells.
Right, yeah, I see. So I guess the idea behind that, I feel like it came a bit more from a PvE perspective, and sort of that idea of it becoming a chance for a comeback is a little bit naff in sort of sPvP. But yes, I guess that's something we'll have to see in the future.
Yeah. Definitely.
All right. Well, I guess we might just wrap this one up here. So I guess we would like to say a big thanks to you, LiNK, and also to Team syNg for providing this footage. It's been really great. So I guess I hope everyone out there enjoyed this and leave us a bit of feedback on how this video is going. So I guess that's it. Stay tuned.